Today, we are diving into one of the biggest, most unbelievable business stories of all time, Walmart. I mean, it's a global empire, a name that literally everyone on the planet knows. But it all started with one man, a poor farmer from Oklahoma who was once told he was a complete and total failure at retail. So, how did he do it? Let's get into it. Just to get a sense of the scale we're talking about, look at this number. $572 billion. That was Walmart's revenue in a single year. It's the world's largest retailer and the planet's biggest employer, period. The journey from nothing to that number is, well, it's almost hard to believe.
And here's the kicker. Before the billions, before the empire, Sam Walton's first boss at a JCPenney literally told him he had no future in retail. So how on earth does a guy who was almost fired for being a bad employee build the biggest store in the entire world?
To figure that out, we have to go all the way back to the beginning. Walton's childhood was anything but easy. It was really defined by two things: financial struggle and intense hard work. And that forged the mindset that would later build his entire fortune. So, Sam was born to a farmer who just couldn't make ends meet, which forced the family to constantly be on the move. His home life was pretty tense. He actually described his parents as the two most quarrelsome people to ever live together. So to escape all that, he just poured himself into work. We're talking milking the family cows, delivering newspapers, really any odd job he could find. This is where he learned the value of a dollar and just how much sweat it took to earn one. So after college, he gets that job at JCPenney we mentioned. But he was terrible at it. Not because he couldn't sell, no, he was a fantastic salesman, but because he just hated the paperwork. He was so focused on talking to customers and helping them out that his bookkeeping was a total mess, and his boss nearly fired him over it. After serving in World War II, Walton was more than ready to be his own boss. With a loan from his father-in-law, he bought his very first store, a Ben Franklin franchise in Newport, Arkansas. And this is where he would learn some of his most important and, his most painful lessons. Right away, Sam just started breaking the rules. The franchise insisted he buy all his stuff from their approved suppliers. But see, back then, retailers were all about high margins on each item. Sam had this kind of revolutionary idea. Forget high margins, focus on high volume. So he started scouring the country for cheaper suppliers so he could slash his prices and make his money by selling more, not by selling for more. And the results were incredible. I mean, look at this. In his first year, sales shot up to $105,000. The next year, $140,000. By year 3, a staggering $175,000. He had the most profitable variety store in the entire state. He was a local hero. He had built this amazing business from nothing, but it was all about to be taken away from him. When he'd signed the initial paperwork 5 years earlier, he had missed one tiny, devastating detail in the lease agreement. The lease had no renewal clause. Can you believe that? The landlord, seeing how insanely successful the store had become, refused to renew. Instead, he bought the store from Sam for a fraction of what it was worth just to give it to his own son. Sam had poured his heart and soul into this business, and just like that, he was forced out. He had lost everything. But for Sam Walton, this crushing defeat, it wasn't the end. Not even close. It was a lesson. He packed up his family, moved to a tiny new town called Bentonville, Arkansas, armed with the painful knowledge of his mistakes and this burning desire to start over, and this time, do it right. He opened a new shop, Walton's Five and Dime. And you can bet the very first thing he did was secure a 99-year lease. He was never going to make that mistake again. The locals were skeptical, whispering he wouldn't even last 90 days. He was about to prove them all wrong. Right away, he went back to his core strategy: find ways to cut costs and give that value straight to the customer. He discovered this new concept called self-service, where customers just picked out items themselves instead of having a clerk get everything for them. This meant fewer employees, and you guessed it, lower prices. The result? His income tripled in less than a year. By the end of the 1950s, Walton owned 15 stores. He was successful for sure, but he felt there was a much bigger opportunity out there. He had this radical new idea for a completely different kind of store, an idea that would become his biggest gamble ever. Okay, so at the time, discount stores were these small shops in big cities that only discounted certain items. Sam's vision was the exact opposite. He wanted to build huge stores in small, overlooked towns and discount every single thing he sold, all the time.
He took this big idea to his franchise company, Ben Franklin, but they flat out rejected him. They said his model of deep discounts across the board was impossible. It would mean they'd have to slash their own profits in half. Nobody was willing to take that risk with him.
So Sam did it himself. He took a massive gamble, mortgaging his own home and borrowing every single penny he could. In 1962, in Rogers, Arkansas, he opened the very first Walmart, and the response was immediate. People in these small towns couldn't believe they could finally get big city prices without the long drive. They came in droves.
The first store was a huge success, but one store isn't an empire. The next phase of this story is all about how he took that single winning idea and scaled it at a speed the world had never, ever seen before. Okay, so here's how he built the machine. In 1970, he took Walmart public, raising cash not just to build stores, but to build them at lightning speed. Then came his operational genius. While his rivals used third-party distributors, Walton built his own massive warehouses close to his stores. This let him restock in one day instead of 5, a huge competitive edge. He cut out the wholesalers entirely, buying directly from manufacturers to shave off even more costs. And maybe most importantly, he made his employees associates, giving them profit sharing and stock options, turning them into partners in the company's success.
The result of all these strategies was just explosive. In 1970, Walmart had 38 stores. A decade later, 276. By 1990, it had crossed the 1,000-store mark. The growth was simply relentless.
Sam Walton died in 1992, leaving behind an empire. But his legacy is, well, it's complicated. The same strategies that brought so much success and savings also brought a ton of criticism and completely changed the face of America.
On the one hand, Walmart provided incredible value. It brought low prices to communities that never had them, and it created millions of jobs. But on the other hand, that relentless focus on low prices often drove small, local businesses straight into the ground. Walton himself even admitted that the small stores were, in his words, destined to disappear. Walton's defense for this was always very simple and very direct. He argued that he wasn't the one putting anyone out of business. Ultimately, he said, the power belonged to the customer. They were the ones making the choice every single day about where to spend their money. So we're left with this. A man who was told he was a failure built one of the world's most powerful companies by relentlessly focusing on one thing: what the customer wants. His story fundamentally changed retail forever, and it leaves us with a pretty critical question as we look forward. In a world now entirely built on that incredible power of customer choice, what comes next?